The first thing in iPhoto we're going to talk about are how to gather content. Now, I have opened up iPhoto. Do not be worried if your iPhoto does not look like mine. I have just all of my personal content and curriculum content kind of all wrapped up in one. I love taking photos and I teach a design class, so I like to use my own photos for projects. That way I know they're copyright friendly. So on the left-hand side, you'll see starting from the top, we have the what's called an iPhoto library. All photos, whether from an external device or from the internet, will go into the events or photos. We're not really going to worry about faces or places in this class. This is more for social media. You see that I have labeled who my family is, but I don't really use that very often. And then places, just so, again, for safety reasons, I typically turn off where the places of the photos are. But you can have the kids set a place. So, for example, if they had a picture in Egypt, they could set the place as Egypt. But for more than what we're going to be doing, I want you to look at the options called events and then the photos. So the events are separated by chronological order, and then the photos itself are also chronological in chronological order. Okay, first things first. So even if you don't have an external device, there are two ways. I have had to use kids use their cell phones, or I've had them take out with an iPad or a camera and then used my USB to plug in, and it automatically goes into iPhoto if you are importing from an external device. And that's set up by going up to iPhoto, down to Preferences, and making sure that it says iPhoto when the connecting camera opens, which can be a phone or an iOS device as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is what kids would do with their MacBooks or an iPad. This is especially awesome for an iPad. And the whole key is using Safari. So I'm going to open up a Safari window, and I'm going to gather some images. So I'm even going to go into Google Images, and I'm going to search for soccer. And this is also a good digital citizenship test for the students. Once they've searched in Google Images, there's an option that's called Search Tools and Usage Rights, and then they can choose between labeled for reuse, with modification, reuse, non-commercial, non-commercial, reuse. I typically have them stick with the bottom two because we are non-commercial. And we might modify these, so I'm going to go ahead and click non-commercial use with modification, and all of these pictures pop up that are copyright friendly with soccer. So I'm going to do a control click, or however you have a right click set up on your machine. And the key is that says add image to iPhoto library. This is how you want the students to add any photo from the internet into their iPhoto library. And you'll see that my photo came into my most recent event, which was on October 13th, 2014. So I'm going to come back to Safari, and I'm just going to add several of them into my iPhoto library. Come back to Safari, add several of them into iPhoto library. Come back to Safari. I'm even going to open up a new tab and go into Pics for Learning, which is an educational image website, free photos for education. Let's see what happens when I search for soccer here. Going to do a control click again on any image in Safari, and I should get that option to add image to iPhoto library. Okay, now I've just taken you through two different ways to get content externally and also through the internet. Safari is the key in there, and then to get the right click, I do a control click and anything that says add image to iPhoto library. So now I'm going to close that out. Now the biggest challenge I think is kind of annoying is that because it is time stamped, they all go into different events. So what students can be trained to do is to clean this up a little bit to put it into one event. All right, good luck.